A subscriber, Jason Delano, sent a few pictures in, and he was wondering if the Earth shine could be seen from the south. In the photos that he sent, the Earth is about, a quarter of the way from the horizon. But it would appear that either the Earth would be lower or it would be higher. But we figure it might be lower because you're on a 3D ball. You're in a 3D environment. So we're just going to take a look at some of these photos.
Apollo 17's up in here.
That's right, yep. Taurus Littrow Valley.
Yeah, it's right in that area there. So if you're sitting there looking to Earth from that position, and this only rotates, 8% in variance as what we're looking at between the apogee and the perigee. So there's the position of Apollo 17. If you were standing there looking back to the Earth, you'd be shooting to the south, but the Earth position would be very high in the sky from that position. So now I pulled up the Apollo 17 photographs, and there it is, fairly high in the sky. And we'll give the fact that because of the curvature of the moon and stuff like that, but that's at least 45 degrees off the horizon. But if you see where the sunlight's coming down here, striking the Earth from this direction here, and then you look right here on this visor, there's the sunlight. But the sunlight's coming from that direction here, but it's coming from this direction over here. A little bit of a problem. And then you go to the next photograph, and the sun is down here again, and this little clover, and now this is coming from this direction. Back up, it's that direction, watch the Earth, and then that direction. Sunlight changes dramatically, but it doesn't change in the visor. The direction of the Earth may be still correct when you're looking at it over top, but the sunlight coming into the visor is then incorrect. Like, that never changes against his visor. The sunlight's coming straight this way down here, and it's coming in from this angle here on those two shots. Just thought it was incredibly strange that they could have those two photographs in there like that, one after the other, and have such a difference in the direction of the sun.
Well, if that photograph is a creation, it's a composite, the Earth was added in later, because basically the Earth should be much bigger than that.
That's another part of the problem. But now you're looking at the Earth coming from that direction. And then we're going to get to another part of the problem. Here it is again, much lower. It's 15 degrees above?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
And it can't be that low if they were standing on the thing. And because we know the direction of the sunlight and the shadows, we know this is facing south.
Yeah, so there's a mountain in the way. Where is it?
And there's a mountain there.
Oh dear.
Not a little bit of a mountain. And we're going to get to that. We're going to have another shot of it there. And now it's getting even lower. It's 10, 12 degrees in the sky. And there's another shot of it. And then here's where they landed, right there. This is about 25 kilometers across. And of course, here we're looking at the map. This is where they blew the talus in on their model. These arrows are showing that they can move them up and down. These two arrows over here show that they can adjust it sideways this way, up and down, between this piece and this piece. They can shoot them in and out, back and forth. And the same is shown here and here. And of course, that is the subfloor. But they're there, and they didn't travel that far. And now we're going to go for the overhead. So they're right in there. And this entire mountain is here, the entire South Massif. And then we're going to get to the actual photographs. The picture of them showing no mountains there is on magazine 137, which is EVA2, which is this EVA down here. And there's the mountain all the way across. They didn't go anywhere past it where that open section is to shoot that. And it doesn't matter where they're shooting south. Anywhere along there, if they're shooting south, this thing's going to be in the way. And it's not in that photograph whatsoever. There's 137. That's EVA2 only, that magazine.
So where's the map?
Where's the mountain? EVA2, and there, it doesn't matter where they're shooting, they're going to see that mountain.
Yeah, of course they are. You can't avoid it. It's so big. Well, we're told it's big.
This one has the scale right there. 5 kilometers across. It's at least 20 kilometers across that way. And they were right there where they landed. And there's north. It shows it on the bit of the angle. And EVA2 comes down here and runs down to there. It doesn't matter how they're shooting that south down, they're going to see all of that. The only way they'd have a flat spot is they'd have to be way over here, and they never got there. There's their 3 EVAs. The other 2 photographs are taken were 134. This is where the LEM is. Of course, the ones at the flag are right at the LEM. And when they're shooting to the north, you see the North Massif. But when they're down here shooting these shots, you don't see the South Massif in those shots. Those are major errors and major adjustments in the elevation of the Earthshine. Like they're putting it in there, they're just taking it, artistic license to create an effect by putting the Earth in the photograph.
Obviously, they didn't have any good continuity girls checking that they got the details right.
Even within the 2 shots, I'll give it that they're sitting there, but they're not far enough on the curvature. The Earth should be at least, 60 degrees?
Yeah, about 60 degrees.
And that's nowhere 60 degrees off the horizon. That's showing the mountains back there. It could be between 45 and 50. I'd give it that, but it's still not that because this is 60 plus shooting from that angle. So that's just the inconsistencies in the photographs on one particular sequence. The lighting angle between what's running off of his visor and what's coming off the Earth is just showing you that it's either been added in or it's just sitting on a background map that they just taped it on there. This is the only thing you can do with those particular photographs. Quite the anomaly. Anyway, we should talk about Russia in your talk with Randy.
Yeah, it's a good one, that. In fact, I think there's 2 more episodes to come because we recorded over an hour and a half of discussion altogether. And the first section is just over 30 minutes, so there's more to come. It was certainly a good way of looking at it. That's what we were discussing. Bart Sibrel's article that's currently in Nexus, Deathbed Confession, NASA, Fake, the moon landings. Well, we know that.
Randy had a few points laid out there. I think one of the points that I would like to make is the fact that when you're talking about the engines, the F1s, the H1s, and all of the other ones, SB1s, and stuff like that, they haven't really managed to improve basically over the last 100 years. Still using that old technology and claiming that it's newer and better. When are they going to come up with something that really works?
Well, all they're using is the solid fuel boosters, those white tubes either side on the Artemis. They were using that back in the 60s. It was developed by Jack Parsons. He was the genius who worked out how to get solid fuel to actually work.
They seem to have quite a bit more thrust than anything liquid fueled. I think Elon Musk is now using methane as well to improve the thrust on it. Well, they're still far below whatever an F1 engine is. I mean, he's putting 32 or 3 of the damn things on a rocket to get the same thrust that 5 worked on Apollo.
Yes, it's always a very strange question, isn't it? If the F1 engine's on Apollo, that's the Saturn V rocket, that's why there are 5 engines, it's called the Saturn V. If they were so good that they could do everything that we're told they did, why were they never used again after Apollo? They weren't used on the space shuttle. They weren't used on anything else. Was it because they didn't work as advertised, that they couldn't produce 1.5 million pounds of thrust, 600 tons of thrust from each one? Because they didn't know. Even the Russians didn't attempt to do something as big as that.
That would dramatically reduce their payload capability as well. I mean, even when you look at Musk today, I mean, his rocket sat there for 7 seconds before it even moved. And that's just waiting for the fuel to burn off till it got light enough to lift.
Yeah.
I mean, that's without a payload. I can't imagine that they're still working with that type of technology and claiming that it's going to get us anywhere.
It's strange, though, in that Nexus article on the confession, how at that time frame, 312, something like that in the article there, how Kelly Smith goes on and says how dangerous the radiation is. And then you hear the other people, like, for example, on the ISS, they're saying that, well, this is as far as we can go.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
And they said that 2 times.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on space station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
So here you have Kelly saying that there's dangerous radiation. We have to solve this problem before we can send humans into this dangerous region of space. And then you have the 2 astronauts on the ISS saying that
right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
But didn't they solve it all with Apollo? And they sent 24 astronauts to the moon, 12 of whom walked on the surface and returned to Earth. So they must have solved it. So why are they still saying that they can't solve it? It makes no sense. And if you start looking at it in a logical sequence, the only conclusion you can reach from those comments by Kelly Smith and Don Pettit is that it didn't happen in the first place. Apollo was faked. I think we're now demonstrating that very clearly, because there are so many questions that we ask, quite legitimate questions, based on information that we have available to us. We ask the question and we don't get an answer. NASA will not address these anomalies. Oh, we're not going to deal with this nitpicky claptrap.
But what gets me is when those 2 astronauts on board the ISS said that
right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
Yeah.
That's as far as we can go. Now, that happened twice.
The kinds of technologies that we're testing out on space station are definitely helping us with our goals of going beyond low Earth orbit.
Well, that was 2 separate instances where this happened. So what gets me is when you add that to what Kelly said, it's quite obvious, and especially the second pair of astronauts on the ISS, the one fella claimed that not only is it not as far as we can go, but we have to solve these problems if we are to send people to the moon and beyond to Mars. So it basically said what Kelly said at that 3:30 time mark that was in NEXUS.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So now you have 3 NASA employees that are claiming this. Come on, what is it? Either you went or you didn't. Either you had the problems or you didn't. Well, that was supposed to have been solved before they went anywhere. And now they're making a big thing out of it again. Oh, radiation's everything now.
But they solved it 60 years ago.
It was done and dusted, finished.
Where's the technology to deal with it? Oh, we've lost it, according to Don Pettit. Yes, you did lose it because you didn't have it in the first place. Or it was stuck in some McDonald's hamburger joint.
Yes, funny how all of that sensitive the documents and everything else just seem to scatter all over the place. I mean, this technology that was lost, none of the materials ever got to a commercial market on what they claimed these products could do. That's number one. That's from the window glass down on, from the insulation around their fuel tanks, what they claim that. I mean, you could build a house anywhere in the world with 1 inch of insulation that they were using around these things, and use a candle to keep you warm in the wintertime. That's how good they claim their materials are. And all of that stuff is gone. But then they don't even have care and control of the documents to keep personal custody. Look at even the moon rocks. They lost personal custody. Some guy walked in and they were just supposed to be in a filing cabinet and he just put it on a lift and took it out, if you recall that story. So how do you know those are the real moon rocks, aren't the real moon rocks? Because they lost the chain of custody on the thing. I did see a comment talking about the moon rock. Somebody was asking how they could open the case if it's under 10 to the minus 11 vacuum for 50 years. How did they open that case? I would think that 10 to the minus 11s, which we can't create here, that little suitcase that they put those in would have collapsed long before, like even to put it into the spacecraft. As soon as they started to pressurize the craft, that would have crushed it right there on the spot if you've got 10 to the minus 11 in there. But this thing stayed sealed for 50 years was never got deformed, anything else. They pulled the latch and lifted it up. No big deal. I mean, how idiotic are they? They didn't even think it through.
Yeah, that's the point. They didn't think it through.
Well, you've got 3 generations away from it, and they weren't thinking what vacuum is. These people don't know anything about it. Your email that you sent me, we should discuss that.
Yeah. Vivian Doring. I presume it's a man.
Anyway, it was interesting when you sent me that, and he was talking about the moon rocks, and they went to Antarctic and they compared them and they were the same. Well, if I went to Antarctic and picked up a bunch of rocks, and I used some of them to fake moon rocks, and then claimed that the rest of the rocks did come from Antarctica, I could hand them to any lab I wanted and they're going to be the same. So what you need is to have somebody else that actually went to the moon and picked up some moon rocks and compare them with the rocks you have.
But if they didn't go to the moon, they couldn't pick anything up.
That's right. I mean, just because something comes in from outer space and lands on the ice so that it's somewhat preserved in Antarctica, there's a whole lot of solar dust out there. It could come from anywhere. And you still would have to have a moon rock to know that the one you picked up in Antarctica was a moon rock for comparison. You'd still have to have previous knowledge of that. You can't just say, that one's coming from the moon. You have no idea where they're coming from. Like, we go through a whole dust cloud every August, right? And you get all those lovely shooting stars and cosmic dust and little pieces of stuff landing on the Earth. Well, they will come from outside of the galaxy, outside of our solar system. They could come from other parts of our galaxy. We have no idea how many billions of years they've been floating around there and actually hit the Earth. They could come from any planetary body.
Yeah. So that comment that Vivian made means nothing, absolutely nothing. And I still haven't worked out what a geolist is.
No, I think he meant geologist.
Well, I think so, yes. But I asked the question, what is a geolist? Somebody who examines Earth lists. I don't know. It's quite amusing.
That tells you quite a bit about the person that's there. He's sitting there trying to be some kind of an authority or something, claiming that he has friends that know more than you do, right? I always get a charge out of that. And the other thing we should discuss was we had a little fun with chat-GPT.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was good. Chat-GPT is no more than NASA's automatic friend. Just repeats what NASA says about everything and says that there are conspiracy theories about the moon landings, but there is no evidence. Yeah, there's plenty of evidence. You're not looking in the right place, Chat-GPT.
Well, I asked Chat-GPT if it would look at the Alice site. Of course, if it was artificial intelligence, it would be able to locate and within a few seconds have a result. It would have read everything on the Alice site, right? Looked at all the pictures, everything, and come back with a thing. It comes back and said, my last updated programming was 2021. Well, then I asked who programmed it, and it wouldn't give me the answer. Then I asked it if man landed on the moon, and it said, yes, of course they did. And I said, you were lying. And it says, I'm sorry about that kind of thing. And it went through. Then it listed the different conspiracy theories that it claimed were debunked. And one of the things in particular was the laser reflector.
Oh, yeah.
Claiming that it was still working today. So I said to ChatGPT, I said, what about all of the documents regarding levitation, the photoelectric charge, levitating the dust on the moon? I said, these things would be covered. And it came back with a response, said NASA was aware of that and they resolved that problem. So I said, where are the documents? And I want the names of the people that made that happen, that resolved the problem of this dust landing on the lunar reflector. And it comes back and it said, my last update was 2021. So they obviously resolved it in the same time frame I was asking the question. That's when they resolved it. But if you look at the laser reflectors in the photographs, it doesn't have any detail in there. There's nothing in the press kits. on the laser reflector that it has some kind of device to remove the dust and keep the dust off of these reflectors. And don't forget, those are prism chambers that are several inches deep that the reflector is built out of with mirrors, right? Prism mirror, so that they reflect back in the same direction the light is coming from all the time. That was the design of them, which is quite unique. But they're in deep pockets. So they're going to fill up with dust. And stuff that comes up and down all the time, it's going to be just completely covered with stuff. And of course, after the first bit of sunshine there, that dust is going to come up. They're not going to work. They wouldn't have worked. Even if they were on the lunar surface, they would not have worked as designed unless they had something that could just blow the dust off in a vacuum.
They couldn't blow it off because there's no air to blow with.
That's the same kind of thing. How are you going to get this dust off of the thing? You can't blow it off because even the rocket engine didn't blow the dust around when they were landing and make a crater. So how are you going to blow this stuff off? How are you going to clean it up? And you can't vacuum it up either because there's no air. So you have to sweep it off. What do you need in the movie industry? A best boy to do that?
Yeah, best boy, yeah.
A best boy. You need a best boy out there with a brush, right, to clean the dust off all the time.
The all-knowing AI. If you'd asked chat-GPT, when was the first time a laser was bounced off the lunar surface? Now, we know the answer to that is 1962 by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. If it had known that, it could be considered quite respectably well informed. So maybe you should go back and ask it. When was the first time a laser was bounced off the lunar surface?
It'll probably come up with those answers, and it'll come up with any other documents that have been programmed into it. But here again, the documents are in direct contravention of each other. Like, you can't have a document that says the dust levitates in the air to a photoelectric charge and then have documentation showing a piece of equipment sitting there that needs to be dust-free to work. That's the point. It doesn't take very much dust on a mirror to stop the reflection.
So come on, chat-GPT, you've got to get your act together a bit better than you have already, because we apply the Turing Test. Remember the Turing Test? Named after Alan Turing, who worked at Bletchley Park in the UK on code breaking. And the Turing Test is very simple. If when you're talking to or reading something, is it written or spoken by a human or a computer? Now, humans are bright enough to be able to tell the difference. If it's a computer providing the answer, as we know chat-GPT does, if you apply the Turing test, you know it's a machine answering the question, but it's not answering fully. And so if you ask it enough detailed questions, it's going to expose itself. It'll make all sorts of excuses. Oh, I wasn't programmed properly, or I haven't looked at that particular thing yet. You say it was what, mid-2021, that was when its last program was done?
Yeah, and then if you ask who did the programming, that's another problem that it won't answer.
We shall see, because those answers it provided were not particularly convincing. I thought, oh, it's just a rather rapid Google search. It goes into the memory banks of Google, Swiss cows, all the other people.
I thought chat-GPT was capable of searching the internet for an answer. Given the fact that it's a machine and it could read entire documents in a nanosecond, right? It should be able to read, it should be able to watch 1,000 hours of videos that you ask it to watch and come up with an answer. It should be able to watch them just now and give you the answer. That's what a machine should be capable of doing, and it's not.
It's obviously not gone to the various websites which we know carry a lot of this information, such as the Owlis website, owlis.com. It obviously hasn't been there because it keeps saying that everything is a conspiracy theory and we shouldn't believe it. Well, that's a standard response nowadays. But what people are beginning to realize is that conspiracy theories, more often than not, are correct.
The interesting thing is it reminds me of the original Star Trek when they were being captured and cared for by a computer with all of its little androids out there running around. And for them to escape, Kirk, of course, said to the robot, he said, "Everything I tell you is a lie, and I am lying to you right now." Right? Yeah. And then you see the smoke comes out, the little beeper goes off on its little neck bracelet on the thing, and then the smoke comes out and the shorts on the head goes over and shorts out the computer, the AI computer. That's what the chat-GPT, because it just goes back to its main thing saying man landed on the moon. The very first time I asked it, it said there are theories on whether man landed on the moon or not. That was the first thing. It didn't say yes or no. It was the very first time, and that's a few months ago. But now it's just bang.
Somebody has obviously cottoned on to the fact that there are question marks.
Oh, they're watching. They're watching what's going on, and they're going to say, oh, hey, we can't let that one out.
So anybody who's involved with chat-GPT who's listening to this, we've got your number. We know what you're doing. It's standard procedure. That's why we're being shadow banned. That's why we're being blocked. But enough people are now aware of Robert's channel, the Apollo Detectives, and come to it very fast. Every time Robert uploads a film, you get about 1,000 views within the first 24 hours. For a shadow banned channel, that's pretty good.
Actually, what were the stats that you were looking at today, Robert? Oh, 17 in 28 days. So we're averaging like
17,000 views. Take a look at this. This is what really aggravates me, is that's not the point. This is the point here, is the impressions. That tells you how many times they show it to people, the thumbnail. You're supposed to get at least 1 million. That's average impressions. Look what we're getting. 14,000, 12,000, 4,000, 8,000, 3,000. I mean, it just keeps getting worse. And then we go and we look at the impressions over here. Like now we're looking at the total. Well, 61,000 impressions, 62,000 impressions. That's nothing. That's the channel page, right? That's the whole thing. So that's all you're getting. And the impression click-through rate's only 3.4%. This is nothing. I mean, in order to get at least 260,000 views, you need 2 million impressions, at least. You look at other channels when they show this data, these numbers are massive. But then again, they're not shadow blocked. We are.
Yeah. You're averaging maybe one new subscriber per day?
Yeah, go figure that out, because the website, I got 46 or 47 subscribers last month. YouTube, I got 28 in a month.
At least what we have and what we've been doing is giving us a documented recording, and at least people in the future will see the work that we've done. That's going to make a big difference. This won't always be the same as this.
A shadow banned channel, significantly hidden, I think it's a remarkable achievement. So it obviously shows that the information is being spread by people who are interested enough to find it.
I think people that watch the channel, and we do appreciate the people that watch our channel all the time, but they should send these links out to their friends, get more people to subscribe to us, because we can't push back the shadow ban ourselves. We need to have them out there actively doing this so more people can see this. And as a matter of fact, if for nothing other than the fact that the incredible editing that Robert does is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's so professional. It's so detailed. He's so exact in what he does, and he spends so much time and effort doing that to bring these presentations out there, to make them enjoyable to watch, to have the images he brings to the detail in what we're talking about is just unbelievable. These are the highest quality productions you're going to see on the net. I mean, if these guys want to watch cats on a keyboard and get 500 million views, that's all fine and dandy. Watch people crash their, $300,000 cars up. That's all fine and dandy. But if they want to learn something, they need to come here. Come here.